Alberto, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Pratik.
Let's start with the basic question. You're the founder of V7. Can you explain what the company does?
Yeah, P7 is a platform to build AI agents that automate knowledge work, which is anything that you do in an office in front of a computer that is not creative or interpersonal. Effectively, all the back office operations that manage the world of finance, of insurance, legal work, which AI is now very capable of automating. And these agents need to take individual steps to solve particularly complex tasks that cannot be solved in a single prompt and that sometimes require internal business knowledge in order to solve them. And our belief is that AI agents have the capacity of unlocking tons of productivity potential within companies, large and small, that can effectively handle most of their administrative operations using artificial intelligence agents.
And when you look at just before launching,
Mhm.
there's so much happening in AI. What is the core gap or core insight that led you to launch V7? And also, what did the MVP look like? Like, what? How did you decide what features should go into that?
Yeah, so V7 started in 2019 with a data labeling automation product. So it's a workflow automation tool, but for the teaching of AI rather than the using of AI for practical business applications. And still today, it's actually our largest product on the data labeling side. And we were effectively teaching AI models how to process documents through computer vision by understanding their layout, their components, developing key value pair annotations, and over time, we started to realize that LLMs were going to dominate this area quite well. And they were perfectly positioned to understand documents at scale, and they could go one level deeper, not just extract information from the document, but also perform business decisions and actual work. And my very first internship when I was 18, I was working in a bank, and it was very boring. I was looking at annual reports from public companies to give them a specific credit score. And this required me to read tons and tons and tons of paperwork and then make some pretty simplistic and well documented business decisions. And there's a huge amount of the world economy that relies on a very similar set of operations that a platform for AI agents that could be configured by individual users could potentially automate end to end. So we started in data labeling by teaching AI, and then we found this opportunity to go one step further, not just in the development of these models, but also in their usage in a number of different industries. And maybe to talk about the MVP, we keep iterating on the product, and I think every AI company should throw away a lot of their code every year or so, and build something new. But when we first started, the MVP for V7 Go was called AGIDB. That was our project name, and it was effectively a relational database for AGI for solving any task. And we believed that if you had a very simple grid view where every cell was governed by an LLM and can make decisions, and you could link them to one another by having an input from a previous output, you can effectively create a very easy interface for chain of thought. And this allows you to uh, automate any kind of business process. And the business process outsourcing industry is $270 billion. That is all the tasks that large companies are outsourcing to BPOs of the world like Accenture or Tech Mahindra or Wipro. They usually involve input a document, extract information. From that extracted information, uh, do an operation like a sum up, and then do a business decision. And this type of workflow accounts for $270 billion a year of manual labor. And that UI itself, that MVP, could automate the majority of the paperwork challenges that we saw in the past through data labeling of them. And then from there, we started to expand in the ability to recognize images and video and audio transcripts. And we've added a lot more bells and whistles in the actual operations that an agent can take.
Let's go back to the journey of getting your first five customers. It's always, it's really hard, and you try whatever you can to get those early customers. So, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, what did you learn from getting those first five customers? And also, how would you advise somebody new who's just starting at zero customers to get those first five real customers?
Yeah, in AI, the key is credibility because there's a lot of snake oil in the AI world. Any area that is, you should, as an entrepreneur, either serve an underserved area that you think has massive potential, or you should serve an area that is booming and that has a niche market that you have a competitive advantage within. So AI is booming, and if you have really strong medical knowledge, then you should start an AI company that sells into hospitals or healthcare groups. But everyone on the other side of the Zoom call or the conversation will be mistrusting of you until you're a known name brand. And so for the first five, you should always you should be super honest about the status of your product, not oversell it, because you're just going to burn those relationships really quickly if you oversell the capabilities of what you do. You should you should hold the hand of the customer for the first 2 weeks of their implementation. And consider that most companies out there have only used ChatGPT and maybe Microsoft Copilot, and more advanced AI tools are not obvious to them as they are obvious to you as a technical founder or even a non-technical founder, to be honest. And really try to hold their hand to value. And that's really important because there's many companies that get a lot of signups when they first launch an AI tool, but then they get churn after 3 months. Um, and that's usually because people have experimented with it, they've enjoyed the prototyping phase, but they actually haven't created real business value internally. And that takes a lot more effort than we tend to perceive as founders.
You have two product lines, Darwin and Go. And obviously, over time, you build different things. Can you explain the two products, what they do? And also, because you just mentioned in a unified way that, hey, you're automating knowledge work, and labeling is just automating the work of teaching, and then there's a bunch of other work to be done. So maybe two-part question. One, explain what the two products do, and also why have two products versus just having a unified single product line.
They are both workflow automation tools, but they have slightly differing requirements. Darwin caters to the research side of AI and enables AI researchers to improve the overall knowledge of a model before it's trained. After a model is trained, it can be used in V7 Go to automate business tasks. And so it's effectively a continuation of that value pipeline. Where we started in the R&D phase when AI wasn't ready for production deployment in many different areas where we operate. And today, the majority of the use of Darwin is in teaching AI how to recognize things that AI models don't do particularly well in, like detecting cancer in MRI scans or melanoma in mammograms, or performing microscopy scans for drug discovery processes. And there's still a lot of and even though AI is kind of everywhere in the media, there's still a lot that AI is still not capable of doing, and Darwin is there to unlock that potential. Go is made to effectively capitalize on the potential of AI when it's ready to understand a specific task and can be prompted to do so. Effectively, all the processes that involve reading documents are now ready for AI to actually start learning how the workflow steps are done in order to do an insurance processing claim or automate your expense reporting. And these are things that the models now know English really well. They know 120 languages. They can understand the complex layouts of documents fairly well. There are some tricks behind the scenes on V7 to really make it efficient there, but they don't have to learn OCR from scratch, or they don't have to learn brand new concepts that are known to them. And so it's used for that second path of the value chain, which has a bigger market to operate within, and it is still catered to a semi-technical audience, in that there are tools out there in the iSphere that are sort of ready-made point solutions to solve one particular workflow, whereas we want V7 Go to be something that a company adopts to automate anything that they consider middle office and back office. So it's used by the finance department as well as the legal department alike. And our goal is for it to become one centralized place for all AI agents to sit within, and to have employees simply route their work to it or delegate their work to it, wait a couple of minutes, and have the agent return back the completed version of that work.
V7 Go is positioned as an agentic workflow builder for multimodal tasks. Now, under the hood, can you just talk about just the basics of infra at V7? How do you think about infra? How you built it, and how do you chain these different vision models, language models, to work in a coherent way for somebody like a semi-technical user who doesn't really know or care about the underlying mechanics?
Yeah, so we're primarily on AWS, but we have to be a bit flexible because some of our customers want their documents to be stored in particular jurisdictions or in particular clouds. And then our backend is written in Elixir, which is very efficient for highly concurrent tasks, which is important in the case of Go because some companies will send thousands of documents at once into AI. If you're performing due diligence on an investment, for example, a data room can be quite large and you want results to be fairly speedy. And so you might need to spin up many different calls to LLMs, and then these are chained together. And we operate with pretty much all of the large LLM providers. And we even give the capacity for users to switch between different models for different steps of a workflow. And this is important if you need a larger context window or there's some small differences between the performance of different models on different tasks. And so it gives a high degree of complex setup for folks that want to go the extra mile. And at the core, it's a tool for developing really efficient chains of thought and performing really good automations that gives you the ability to input any file without having to worry about pre-processing, the ability to query knowledge bases without having to create your own RAG infrastructure for it, and then the ability to just get users to start developing their prompt chains so that an automation can be developed in 1 or 2 hours rather than it becoming an R&D project that needs testing and tools to be acquired, which can be quite slow, especially in larger companies, but also in startups that just want to start realizing value.
How do you think about product inside V7? Like, what's your philosophy? How do you guide your team to, hey, this is how V7 thinks about product?
Yeah, we think of product as something that is in a continuous evolution by design, and it's not just about launching new features, but it's about recognizing paradigm shifts. LLM were a major paradigm shifts in AI. Before, smaller deep learning models could do one thing and one thing well, and you needed to have multiples of them to effectively deliver value to any customer. And a good way to think of it is that every 6 months, founders should ask themselves, what is the product that, if released today, would kill my product? And there's probably one right now that you can think of. And then you should build that. And it's painful because it can require refactoring or it can require a complete shift in the user experience that you've designed so well. But I think it's really important to start effectively reprototyping what you're building into a new version of it. Especially today, SaaS products are not safe from becoming commodities that can be just sometimes even vibe coded. The only thing that is really hard to do quickly is scalability and creating something that can actually scale to millions of users and tens of millions of data points. But there's probably sub features of your product and small value realization features that could actually lose their edge in a much shorter time than a few years ago. So I would encourage any founder to continue to do it. And it's a really hard job. There's less of a technical moat with code becoming easier to do than ever. And it's not just an AI thing. It's the fact that there are libraries that can allow you to build a really good workflow builder in a couple of days, whereas these weren't available 5 years ago. There's APIs to process payments and query documents and structure unstructured data that are available at an hour of integration time. And so developing a quick app that can solve a problem for an enterprise is quite a short time frame. And actually, I was talking about this with someone else earlier that software as a service is slowly turning into service as a software, where some of the companies that are doing incredibly well today offer an AI service that is effectively very similar to a previous human service. And it is actually automating something that previously took a long time to put together, like creating marketing copy or creating ads for someone. It's basically former agency work that now can be done a lot more efficiently with AI enabled agencies and AI enabled service people. And potentially, this is a better area for new startups to emerge than SaaS, which already has quite a lot of winners already and quite a lot of established companies with high funding that are effectively trying to squeeze as much efficiency and performance out of AI as they can.
What has surprised you the most about how users have interacted with your product in all this time?
I would say the level of depth and creativity that people can uh, extract if you have the right primitives in your product. I think product primitives are really important, and first principles thinking is essential whenever you're developing a piece of software. And you should make sure that whatever you're building has composable building blocks that allow you to solve really, really complex problems in your space, because those are pretty hard to refactor. And V7 Go, for example, has all the property types you might find in a CRM. So something can be a piece of text, something can be a single select or any type of file type. And then they can be connected to one another. So an LLM can read a block of text and a file and then produce another file as an output. And this composability has allowed some incredibly complex flows, all the way from logistics automation to legal automation, where, given an MSA that comes in, you go and search within a knowledge base, and within that knowledge base you extract the right clauses. You then go and perform an internet search to see whether they're correct or whether there's anything new that needs to be extracted. And people have gotten really creative with that, especially power users that have some technical background and want to go the extra mile with what traditionally we call digital transformation, or integrating technology in existing practices.
Where do you draw the line between human in the loop labeling and fully autonomous label free learning? Or is it a continuous spectrum and the customers get to choose?
Yeah, it really depends on so on the training side, you want AI to do as little as possible. Well, actually, you want AI to do as you want the human to do as much as possible non automatable work, and that means that AI should do as much as it can to effectively segment an object or write part of a response of a prompt. And then humans should enhance that by issuing any corrections or adding their own details within it to effectively complement anything that AI doesn't already know. And that's where the learning comes from. You're effectively producing a brand new piece of training data. On the other side, on the automation side, you want AI to do as much work as possible and then flag anything that humans should be reviewing. And most workflows do require a little bit of human review, especially if you're issuing a mortgage to someone. You wouldn't want AI to make every decision, especially if something is out of distribution. And this can vary quite a lot. There are some workflows that can be 100% automated and they're super reliable. And these usually involve fewer data points, smaller documents, less complex rule sets. And then some, like an offer memorandum, which is what an investment bank might receive when deciding to buy or sell a company. That is a pretty high stakes decision that an analyst will usually want to review. And then AI becomes sort of like a partner to them that they can ask follow up questions to. They can reissue some calculations. And I would say that's still the 80-20 rule, where humans still have to do 20% of the work.
If you look at all the different segments you serve, insurance, contract review, medical, so many segments. And if we had to identify the characteristics of, hey, this subvertical is likely to hit PMF when you're guiding somebody else. So how do you think about identifying a subvertical where the likelihood of PMF getting to PMF is faster? Like, what are the characteristics of that?
Is there a very clear title that you're selling to? And very clear, ideally, there's a conference where they all aggregate, or you can consistently find one in all Fortune 1000s. It shouldn't be most, it should be all. That's one essential piece. The other is, do these people get it as soon as, within the first 30 seconds of the demo? That's the other part. And if they don't get it, then you're going to have an extremely hard time. And then the third is, are they the economic buyer, or is the economic buyer in basically on board with the solution that you're looking for? And this might be more relevant to coding tools, and there's a lot of tools that solve a small and simple task, but they can be quite expensive, and so they need to go and ask for budget to the CTO or the CMO perhaps, and then it's less of a, some small part of an org might like it, but the higher ups might not do so, and it's not transformational enough. And then the other part for measuring and achieving PMF is that you shouldn't try to be Google from day one. And a lot of founders get lost in this because they want to build something that can be venture backed and can become quite huge. But most successful AI products have started with solving one very small problem particularly well, and that has allowed them to create word of mouth growth. Because if you're doing a AI avatar, most of the time you just want to create one AI avatar that speaks to people, and not something that also produces videos of that avatar climbing the stairs, or create a whole video editing suite around it. And similarly for V7 Go, we wanted to create something that was 10 times better than traditional intelligent document processing tools. So we made the document experience really good. And the vision is for it to be a workflow tool that can automate everything. But if we had started from that, we would have had a long way before that component of it would have been better than Zapier or the other more established tools. And so by focusing on one thing well, we started to get more initial traction and few customers that really love you, rather than a lot of customers that think, hey, this is actually not that much better than the incumbent.
In 2025, many people are chasing agents because it's a topic of the year, and many people are building products. So when you think about V7's position in the market, especially from the customer's mind, like, how do you position V7 in the market? And maybe part B is, how can anyone position their startup in the customer's mind in 2025, especially when everything looks so noisy and crowded?
Yeah, agents are effectively an evolution of the consumer LLMs that we're all using. And I think it's been a necessary evolution for most startups, because, I mean, you even see incumbents like ServiceNow now being all about agents. And it's effectively a natural selection process where we've all used a tool where we can just prompt it once and get a response back. Whereas what an agent does is it takes some time, performs a few steps, and then gives you finished goods on the other side. It gives you finished, finalized work. And that delivers a lot more value than something that now everyone has on their phone in the form of ChatGPT, or the tools that they already have, like Salesforce, to just query the CRM. And an agent effectively adds this arrow of time to the value proposition. For us, our unique value proposition for agents is that they can solve really complex tasks. So you couldn't solve an offer memorandum scan or an insurance claims review in 2 or 3 prompts. You actually have to develop something that encompasses the same level of complexity that a company that is doing insurance claims is following today. And that requires a lot more primitives, a lot more agent steps, and something that also works reliably at scale, which is not to scoff at. The LLM calls can be pretty unreliable. And especially if you're processing thousands of tasks every day. And for anyone that is looking at this set of differentiations and looking at agents, obviously there's a lot of people that are trying to build an agent startup, but there are still myriads of individual customer types that don't have a reliable agent experience for them. Whether it's managing a restaurant, or whether it's construction, or material planning, or ordering commodities on the stock market. There's really a lot of individual smaller tasks to start from. And think of an agent as the task that normally gets delegated to the most junior person in an organization. And that's usually a good way to start thinking of that. And I think what I wouldn't recommend is to go for hyper generic agent frameworks unless you're a super technical team that has an edge in that, because it's something that every hyperscaler is looking at. Enterprises are going to buy from Amazon or Google or Microsoft before they buy from you. And it's hard to develop a deep edge into that. And most importantly, agents are a 2025 thing, and we're all competing in this space. For 2026, there's going to be more behaviors that emerge out of the use of AI. And so try to build for the capabilities of models in 2026 rather than those in 2025. They're going to have bigger context windows. They're going to have almost every app is going to have an MCP integration. Almost every video generating tools is going to have longer lengths and more reliability in what they create. And so what can you build with that in mind? And if you start today, when you get there, the current incumbents or the current startups that are at $50 million of revenue above are actually going to be slower to get there because they already are carrying all this baggage from what they built this year and the one before.
I want to talk company building for a second. So let's say you're guiding or advising a founder who just raised a pre-seed and they have an MVP, but no customers yet. So how would you guide them to structure their time, and what are all the things they can try, or what experiments can they run quickly to figure out, hey, this is the target segment, these are the features, but basically just kind of, and this is the team I need. So how do you guide them with company building?
Yeah, there's a really good blog post by the CEO of Superhuman on measuring product market fit, and ironically, Superhuman got sold today to Grammarly, so pretty topical. They were looking at Net Promoter Score, which is how many people would in their translation of it, it's actually a variant of it, is how painful would it be if your product suddenly stopped existing today? And the number of people that say very painful should be at least a third. And really, those are your customers. The rest of the group, they shouldn't be your customers. You can keep them on board, but really, they're only going to be there for another year, perhaps. And then double down on learning from those people and asking for feedback. And you have no paying customers today. Start by just getting feedback from people. Sometimes even other founders, if you want to get some initial brutal feedback from folks, and you should always be looking for brutal feedback. And then when you feel ready, start going for customers just to get feedback on the tool. And don't fake it till you make it too hard. Be super honest about the capabilities that you have today, and for anything that's on your roadmap, offer to be a design partner to that business. If that business is niche enough, they probably don't have an ideal tool that is in the market today that is solving their problem really well, and you can be that tool. You don't want to go into the same area that another incumbent is doing and then asking, hey, are we better or are we not better? You should instead go into an area that you believe you can build an edge towards and then start getting feedback from what could be initial customers. And it does take time and effort, and you should just do it very systematically, because just like in fundraising, you're going to get a lot of no's for every yes. But unlike fundraising, when you start getting yeses, you get more yeses down the road, and then it snowballs. You don't have to just get one term sheet to say yes to. It's a continuous process.
Right. I have one final question before we go to the rapid fire round. As it pertains to building V7 and your 5-year vision, what AI advancements today are the most exciting to you?
MCP is probably the most interesting right now, because it's a joy to configure and use, and I think it will unlock sort of a new internet below the internet of tools talking to each other. But I think that there's an underserved aspect of how much AI can actually learn both about businesses' demand and supply and human consumer demand and supply, and communicate more effectively than we do in sourcing what we need. I'll make a very simple example that most people can relate to, but we do not operate within, which is dating apps, where humans are wasting their time, I guess, swiping on dating apps and communicating with people to find out what they like and what they don't like. But if AI knows about us well enough, it could actually matchmake us a lot more efficiently in a matter of seconds while we're asleep. And the same thing can happen in business, where P7 as a business demands a certain number of employees, a certain types of software, new snacks for our office. And if an AI were to know enough about what we're looking for, and another AI knew enough about what they're selling, that match could be made and surfaced in a way that replaces our ability, our need of searching things on Google and performing research and whatnot. And I think that's an interesting and still underserved part of AI implementation.
With that, we're at the rapid fire round. I'll ask a series of questions and would love to hear your answers in 15 seconds or less. You ready?
Hopefully, I'm fast enough. Let's go.
All right. Question number one. What's your favorite book?
Ooh, probably *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari. I just like looking very, very far back into how we ended up the way we are.
Next question. Which historical figure do you admire the most and why?
Difficult one. There's so many cliches. Gosh, I have a painting of Alexander the Great's mosaic in the House of the Faun, which represents the Battle of Gaugamela, which is the main battle that allowed the Macedonians to take over the majority of Persia and the known world for them at the time. And it represents taking a huge risk because the companion cavalry of Alexander charged towards Darius and his chariot, and the fleeing of the Persian king allowed the Greeks to win because the rest of the army started to rout in the result. So they took a huge risk, but they were able to conquer the world as a result.
Amazing. What has been an important but overlooked AI trend in the last 12 months?
I mentioned the sort of AI to AI communication, but I do think that there's more forms of data that are not text related that AI can be configured to understand. An interesting example is weather prediction. There's companies like Atmo that instead of inputting text tokens, they're inputting values that are coming from weather prediction devices. And with that, they're able to deliver a service that is pretty unique and that is not just another LLM.
What's the one thing about knowledge work that most people don't get?
That we have created a system that is highly dependent on knowledge work because we only have 2 eyes and 2 hands. And it's an incredibly inefficient way of transferring knowledge and information, where whenever you ask a lawyer to review a document, they need to read through it and then output their know-how. But that know-how can be stored in an AI model effectively. And the collective brain of all lawyers inside a law firm is far more powerful than that of a single partner.
Amazing. I think that the form factor of the way we consume information, process it, and produce output, it's all catered to humans. And with agents, they have no such restrictions. So it's it's amazing. All right, next question. What separates great AI products from merely good ones?
Definitely churn rate. I think retention is key, and you can make really fun prototypes that get used once or twice, but really good ones are used every day.
What have you changed your mind on recently?
The importance of pixels. I keep going back and forth on this. When LLMs started to get popularized, computer vision and pixel values lost a little bit of steam, and now they're regaining it, especially in terms of computer use and being able to read what's on our screens today.
What's your wildest AI prediction for the next 12 months?
12 months, I think we will see a lot more noise in the protein space.
Our final question. What's your number one advice to founders who are starting out today?
Get a co-founder. If you're not the technical founder, get a technical co-founder, and keep iterating on your prototype and kill your babies if it doesn't excite you within 3 days.
Amazing. Alberto, this has been a great episode. Just loved your thoughts on various topics, especially as we enter 2025, in the middle of 2025, agents, starting companies. So thank you so much for coming onto the show and sharing your insights.
Thank you, Pratik. Great to be here.
All right.